chache wana inajifumira kwa nanga inenda chache kachete ndijo shika chete bachida singade bachida singade bachida singade.
It is You Speak, I Speak at Diamond FM. My name is Leekay, and like we promised you that we will be bringing in some special guests on the show just to make sure that what we're talking about can match to reality. And in the studio this morning, I'm privileged to have a man who loves the song that just played, and this Kumira Trevor Dongo, which is very popular on the show, by the way. I'm privileged to have Mr. Darlick Marandure, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Zimpapers. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Leekay. Thanks for having me.
We are excited to have you on the show. Now, in the past weeks, we've been talking about self-belief, and like we said, the show is called You Speak, I Speak, and we've managed to get you into the studio to talk about the power of I am, the power of I can. Before we even go into who Darlick Marandure is, I just want to congratulate you on the recent award. Care to share with us what that is all about?
Thank you very much, Leekay. The award was a MegaFest award for the IT Innovation Leader of the Year for the year 2017. So truly grateful for MegaFest for conferring me with the award, and also appreciate all the efforts of the members of my team that I've worked with who ensured that we continue to do quality work and we deliver. So thanks to everyone.
Congratulations in order. We'll talk more about those achievements later on in our chat, but we just needed to start off by saying congratulations, Makoro Koto, to you and the team. It also makes us proud.
Very
now,
true.
let's talk about this one, the power of I am. This is something that a lot of people are failing to grasp, but just looking at your profile and where you've been, it looks like you have grasped it and you've actually put it into action. At what age did you know, or did you even know what you wanted to be in life earlier on in your teenage years?
Mm-hmm. You know, growing up, I was a regular teenager, and teenagers want to be many things at different points, depending on who influences them.
Sure.
But most of the time, I wanted to be a pilot. I had dreams of flying aeroplanes. I had dreams of flying in the military. But again, I had to temper those dreams with reality, because I had challenges with my eyesight from an early age. So there was always the chance that I might never be able to fly aeroplanes because of my eyesight. But I really wanted to be a pilot. And then 86, I remember clearly, after following closely the story of the spaceship Challenger in the US, I read the profiles of the astronauts there. Then there was the one black guy, Ron McNair, and he was a physicist. And then I got obsessed with becoming a physicist. So again, these are things that you're influenced by different people at different stages.
Sure.
But those were my teenage years. But again, reality started to shape after O levels, and then I was told I could only study arts for A level, and then slowly my career began to take shape.
All right. Now, you spoke about at O level, you were already reading about physicists and whatnot.
Correct.
What inspired you to read about that? Because sometimes the young people at O level, all they are thinking is about reading their books. That's to those who know what they want to do. But some are not even thinking about a career. Some are not even thinking about reading something that is outside what they're supposed to be reading.
True. Yeah, growing up, we always had the culture of reading in the family. We used to be members of the local library, Turner Memorial Library, they used to call it back in the days. So we would be there almost every other day, picking up a book, reading. And then I developed a strong interest in just current affairs. What's happening in the world around me, what's going on. So when you had, spaceships, going out, I was interested. I was interested in what was going on around me. And that accident in 86 was a global highlight. So I just wanted to know what happened, what caused the accident, and it drew my interest. And I think as teenagers, we want to encourage that curiosity that allows teenagers to start reading, exploring the world around them, and so that we're not only confined to what we know, but we broaden our knowledge to actually get to know about other areas, even though they might not be of interest to us.
Yeah. Interesting. I think right now we're bemoaning a dying reading culture, And maybe we'll pick another show where we talk about that. But that's very interesting. Now, follow up to that, a lot of people make excuses why they haven't made it in life. They blame a lot of things, e.g. family background, poverty, school. Take us back a little bit and share with us your background. You've already given us a little bit about a culture that you had going to the library. But just take us back and give us more details about your background.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying it's rather unfortunate that people go out of their way to blame their circumstances for shortcomings or failures in their lives. I think people need to stop and realize that, these circumstances are actually stepping stones that we actually can step on and get to where we need to get on. They lead us to our eventual destination. And there's always lessons that we can learn from all these situations. So rather than sit around and moan how things could have been different, how do we use our circumstances to actually get to where we need to get to in life?
Sure.
And then just turning to my background now, I grew up in a family of six siblings, 4 boys, 2 girls. My dad was a headmaster. He rose through the ranks from being a teacher, and then my mom stayed home. A very critical role in the family, according to me.
Sure.
Because she stayed home, made sure she asked all the important questions. How was school today? She made sure she managed who was coming home to play, because friends can influence us a great deal.
Absolutely.
So my mother was that gatekeeper who made sure that we were influenced correctly on a daily basis. And so growing up in a family of 6, I was fortunate that I was not the first. I had 2 twin brothers who were ahead of me. So I always had people to look up to.
Great.
But there was always the pressure also of being an older brother to 3 others. So they looked up to me. So I had to make sure that the example that I was setting for the little ones behind me was always a positive example. So I think being a middle child actually turned out to be an advantage for me, because I had people I could look up to. My brothers went to college, and I dreamt of going to college.
Great.
Yeah, and I wanted to be better than what they had done. So I think there was some inspiration to be had there. And then with the pressure always of trying to set the standard for those behind you, it keeps you on your toes. So I think generally, we had a very good family life. And I remember the winters sitting around the fireplace as a family, and we would share conversations about what was going on around us, and we would take time to share our accomplishments or review where we were. So I think these conversations around the fire with the whole family, they worked as inspirations.
Great.
It was a chance to share, chance to have a conversation. And then also we were brought up in a very Christian culture, with the Bible being central to our upbringing. And I've grown up believing that the Bible, as a tool, is really, really key to raising kids. And I think most of what I learned, most of what I believe in, is really, really centered on the Bible.
So Christian background, also family-oriented background. Now, someone listening right now is saying, I don't have the privilege of having both parents around. I can't sit around the fireplace. I don't have siblings to look up to. So how am I going to make it to a point where you have made it? Basically, my question here is, do you think that your background has anything to do with where somebody ends up?
Yes, Leekay. Your background does have something to do with it. However, that doesn't mean that if you don't have parents, if you don't have people to look up to, you should write yourself off as a failure. That's actually an opportunity for you to begin to make it on your own, right? Without the examples in your immediate surroundings. So what are the examples can you look at outside of your family that can inspire you? What are the mentors can you work with that are not members of your family who could actually provide some guidance so that you too can succeed? I think it's about realizing what situation you are in and just making the most of it. So I just happened to grow up in a family where mom and dad were present, and they were very present emotionally and physically. And then I also had siblings who were very present. So I was fortunate that way. But like you said, there's families where the parents are not available. And now we have the diaspora situation where the father could be working outside the country and the mother is at home raising the kids. So what positives can the kids take out from the fact that the dad has sacrificed the family life to go overseas and go provide for the family? There's some positives we can take away from there, even though the dad is not physically present. So I don't think we should sit and say, my particular situation defines who I am, and because I didn't grow up with parents in the house, therefore I'm not going to succeed. No. The challenges you face in that same setting should be the challenges that motivate you to even do better than those who grew up in a regular family setting.
I'm of the same mindset here, but you did tell us about your family setup and your sibling setup, but maybe to put a bit more reality into it, you went to the same schools that the young people right now are going to right now in Mutare. Maybe take us through those schools, and from there we can then start moving towards convincing them that this man I'm speaking to right now went to the same school that you went to. So if you're able to go to school, which is a stepping stone, then you're able to achieve. Maybe just take us through your education.
Yeah, maybe let me just take you a step further. Well, when I was in grade 1, I remember there's a day I just woke up and I decided I didn't want to go to school. I just wanted to stay home and
Was
play.
it winter?
I can't even remember what time of the year that was. And then I remember my father saying, you don't want to go to school? It's okay, stay home. Stay home.
Wow.
So I think that was a turning point in my educational life. Because my dad would normally not actually endorse things that are not good for you. So I began to realize there was something about this school that was good for me, in it for me, right? Because if he was going to say, just stay home and he's not going to punish me, he wanted me to realize the importance of going to school.
Great.
From that day onwards, I took a serious interest in school. And there was no turning back. Yeah, there was no turning back. And then just a bit of my education.
Yes.
I started off my grade 1 in a rural town called Mafua in Masvingo, where my dad was teaching. And we lived close to the school because my dad was a teacher there.
Yeah.
And then in the late 70s, we then moved to Mutare. 78, 79, I think it was. We moved to Mutare, and the first school I went to in Mutare was Sakuva Primary School. And we were living in Florida, number 2 Charles Place, I remember.
Wow.
And we would wake up in the dead of the winter, early morning, 4 a.m. And my mother would give us a bath, and then we would join my father, and we would walk all the way from Florida
To Sakuva.
to Sakuva.
Wow. Okay.
And it was me and my little sister.
Wow.
Early morning.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that were very defining, right? Because we would walk across, and I'd be thinking in my head, this school must be very important for us to walk
If we were walking this
miles
way.
and miles. I haven't quite measured the distance though to Sakuva Primary, but we would walk past schools like Bering Primary School.
Yes.
Because we couldn't go to Bering Primary School for whatever reason.
Yeah.
This is before independence.
Yes.
So we'd walk past Bering Primary School all the way to Sakuva.
Wow.
And I remember Mr. Candiero was my headmaster, your dad. He was my headmaster there. And then I fell in love with marimba. And the whole school experience was very exciting. So I began to appreciate the importance of school. And then in later years, after independence, we were able to move back to Bering Primary School. And so now it was a normal life. We'd wake up, normal time, 7 a.m., take a quick bath,
And just walk across.
5 minutes to school. So life became very exciting. And then I stayed at Bering School for 7 years and then moved on to Mutare Boys High. Mutare Boys High, by then we had moved to Fairbridge Park, and then initially the school bus would come. So we just walk down the road and we'll get the bus, the Zupco buses, all the way to school. And then we had problems with the buses. Sometimes they'd come, sometimes they wouldn't. And then we started walking to school. And the walk to Mutare Boys High was not a short walk.
Absolutely.
Up the hills.
Still isn't.
Up the hills through Murambi, past Hillside Golf Club.
Yeah,
and sometimes we try to cut through the golf club and then they'd chase us. And then we'd have to go around the golf club and eventually get to school. And I remember we'd get to school and sometimes we'd be sweaty. And then we had to stand outside for a bit so that the shirts would dry. It was a very long walk.
It is. I mean, Fairbridge Park to Boys High.
So that whole experience made me realize that, if I'm going to be waking up early, walking these long distances to school, I might as well make it count for something.
Was this you now thinking? Because
This
I
is
think
me
that's
thinking.
very crucial now.
Yeah.
Because I think what some people lack is that understanding, self-understanding. I mean, parents can do what they can do, teachers can say what they can say, but I think there's a point where yourself needs to kick in and start asking yourself, this must be worth something. If if the school fees is being paid and I have to walk all these distances and I have to stay in class, it must mean something.
It must mean something. But I must say, I was a regular teenager at Ontario Boys High. Form 1, Form 2, loved my sports. You would always go out and play sports. And school was secondary, actually. Turning point was Form 3. Then I realized, no, we're onto something here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're onto something
What
here.
had happened?
I don't really know what happened. I think part of it was the teachers that I had. Because I remember one teacher, Mr. Thomas, was my English teacher. Mr. Thomas was a really, really good mentor. I remember him sitting us down as a class and telling us, I watched some of you guys walking to school in groups, spending a lot of time talking about nothing important. His advice was, if you're serious about your life, every now and again, separate yourself from the crowd, right? Walk to school or walk from school alone. Think about your life. Visualize where you want to be. And think about what it takes to get to where you want to be. And then spend that 45 minutes walking, thinking and planning your life. So I took that advice to heart. So every now and again, I'd break away from the crowd and then I'd walk home alone.
So now this
Thinking.
becomes the self now.
Exactly. So this is where I learned to motivate myself from the inside, trying to figure out what is it that I want out of life, right? And how am I going to go about getting it, right? And then I'd also ride on the motivation of others, Saturday mornings, walking to church, I would walk with Mr. Bizamari. He was a teacher then at Chancellor School. So these are the people that I used to bounce off ideas of. And they would seek to motivate me. Tell me the importance of school, the importance of being successful. And then I'd go out there and motivate myself and say, okay, listen, if he's saying it's important, it must be important. He's been through life. And so what can I learn from him? And so this is how it all came about.
Speaking to Mr. Darlick Marandure, who is the Chief Technology Officer for Zimpapers, and this is You Speak, I Speak. It's Diamond FM 103.8. Thank you very much for staying locked on. We've been speaking about your education at Bering Primary, Boys High, Form 3. You're now seriously thinking about school, why you're in school, and you're starting to really think hard about why you're doing what you're doing. I think we'll just have to skip that and quickly just jump on to then what you did after school, after your high school, and the professional achievements. Where did you go after school?
Right. So let me hasten to point out that I didn't make it to varsity at the first try. This is A-level. I had great O-level results, complacency set in. A-level didn't do so well. I had to redo my A-levels. But I told myself I was going to make it to university. And I eventually did. So I made it to University of Zimbabwe. And back then it was the only university in the country.
And it must have been something huge back in the days.
And it was a big deal. Name is in the paper. You're going to college. And now I'm like my brother. I'm in college and this is the life. So I went there, studied economics. Got done with economics, then I moved to Zimbank on the management training program, and then shortly thereafter I left for the USA. In the USA, studied for my MBA, and then later on I also studied for my Master's in Information Systems Management. And then I also have qualifications in project management and in ITIL, which is an IT certification.
So that's Mr. Marandure's qualifications now. And today we're sitting with him here, his numerous awards, and we just spoke about one when we began the show. Now we have some people in Mutare, Mr. Marandure, who are limited by geographical location. They don't see themselves rising out of Zimbabwe's fourth largest city, and they're thinking, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. How could I make it? Some actually believe that the only way you can make it is if you go to Harare, which is the capital city. What is your message to such a person?
My message to such a person is Mutare actually is one of the best places to be for young people. It allows you to remain focused. And if you're in school, it's the best place. Lots of great schools in Mutare gives you lots of opportunities to actually focus on your studies. Take advantage of that, exploit that situation, and then when you're done with your studies, you'll be ready for life in the big cities. But it has to start off with a good education from a small town where you're allowed to actually focus, where you can build the necessary maturity to actually encounter everything you'll encounter in a big city. So my advice is take advantage of your situation. Focus on school, learn what you have to learn, grow up, mature, and then eventually you'll make it in the big city.
Great. So a great place to stay focused, and I can bear testimony to that. Having grown up in Umtari myself and having come back here, there's lots of differences that you start appreciating about a small town. But thank you very much for that. Now, we also want you to speak to that somebody who probably has set up now and they're listening to this man who went to Sakuva Primary School, bearing boy's eye, and they're thinking, so it's possible. What drives you to achieve?
Well, what drives me now is not what drove me then. What drives me now is the fact that I have 3 young sons of my own who look up to daddy. Daddy has to provide school fees, daddy has to provide food on the table, and so I have to make sure that my kids are well taken care of. And it's every parent's dream that you provide your kids with a better life than you had. So those are the things that drive me. What example am I setting for the kids? They look at me. I remember when I was here at Star FM, I brought my boys over here to take a look at the studio. And my son went to school and he was telling his teacher when he grows up, he wants to be the boss at Star FM.
Wow.
So this is how you begin to influence kids. So when you have young people looking up to you, you have to make sure that you're setting a good example for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what currently drives me. And what drove me back then was basically, I really wanted to make my parents proud. My parents had sacrificed a lot to get us educated, to get us grounded. So my desire in life was just to make my parents proud. I wanted to grow up to be able to afford a few good things that I could do for my parents.
Wow.
Unfortunately, my dad died just as I was starting my career. My mom's still alive. She now lives in the US, and we spent a lot of quality time with her, and I think my soul is at peace now.
Great. I think that's one thing that I also see lacking in should I call them today's children or today's teenagers, where they seem to have lost the respect, especially for whether they are guardians or parents who sacrifice for their schooling, which is a crucial part of life, by the way.
Very true.
And you see them wasting away. You can actually tell on the streets by just by the way the uniform is put on to say you see them at odd times of the day in town, and you're thinking, all I can think of is, I think you're just being unfair. Now, if you're telling me that your inspiration back then was to make your parents happy, and now you've got children that you need to also inspire, that's something that somebody must honestly pick up from.
Very true, very true. Yeah, I think as Zimbabweans especially, we're living in tough economic times. So our parents are going through a lot to put together the school fees that we require to actually go to school. So I think my message to the young people out there would be, make use of the time that you have and the opportunity that you have to sit in a class. Sure. Make use of it and make sure something comes out of it. And I think it's a blessing in life if you have parents to be grateful for, or guardians to be grateful for, who've actually sacrificed for you. Absolutely. And I think at some point when you do well, you need to turn back and give back to those who actually helped you make it in life. Yeah.
Now let's speak to the person who is trying, because I think I have lots of respect for someone who tries. But somebody's trying, but they face huge challenges along the way in their trying to be somebody. Somebody is sitting around and they're thinking, I know this guy. There are people listening right now, because remember, this show is not just for the young people.
Correct.
It's for everybody.
Correct.
Who is trying. So this person is trying, but they've faced huge challenges. What would you say to them? Because sometimes challenges then boggle people down and just stamp people down, and they never become anything.
True. Now, the thing I like to say to people who are trying is, an easy life is never guaranteed, and nothing good comes easy. Everything requires a lot of effort, but the key is we shouldn't lose heart and we should not give up, because if we give up, then we will never ever accomplish anything. So if you are trying and you haven't succeeded, give it another go. And keep giving it another go. And if we take a look at historical examples, I mean, Thomas Edison took 10,000 tries to actually come up with a light bulb. So if he had given up at the 9,000th time, would we have lights? No, we
Probably
wouldn't.
not.
No, we wouldn't. So I think we have to have it in us to always keep trying. And we shouldn't be discouraged by failure, because like somebody said, failure gives us an opportunity to start again. This time only more intelligently. So what do
Like
we
that.
learn from our failures, and what lessons can we then take when we try again and we keep trying? And again, and I think the key in life is basically to do our best. God understands our limitations. So when we do our best and we let Him do the rest, there's no way we can fail, because I strongly believe there's nothing that my God and I cannot accomplish if I put my mind to it.
Powerful, powerful. Speaking to Mr. Darlick Marandure, he is the CTO for the Zimpapers group. And this is You Speak, I Speak. We hope that you're getting some inspiration from our discussion here. We'll listen to the theme song now by Sane Makalima. It's a song called I Am, and we'll be back with Mr. Marandure to give us more inspiration on You Speak, I Speak, the power of I Am, the power of I Can.
This song is dedicated to each and everyone that has struggled sometimes. Everyone that has lost hope, and those that have lost their faith. Even when life dishes out the worst of the worst, just believe in yourself, cause you're a champion. Listen.
When you feel the world so cold, I am sun. And when the will to live has left you, I am life. Whenever you're in doubt, I am peace. When darkness is upon you, I am light. Let no one tell you you're unworthy. Just raise your hands and sing with me. I am. 'Cause I'm a champion in my own right, destined for greatness. I am. 'Cause I'm a super individual. I am. Oh, I am a champion. When you're down and under, I am strength. When all hope seems to fade away, I'll be your faith. Whenever you are lonely, when destiny is upon you, let no one tell you you're unworthy. Just raise your hands and sing with me. I am. 'Cause I'm a champion in my own right, destined for greatness. I am. 'Cause I'm a super individual. I am what I am. I am. Oh, I am. Ooh, I will never lose hope. Don't you worry. Don't you worry now. Ooh, yeah. 'Cause my time is now to shine like the stars. Like the sun. In the sky. Everybody sing with me. Let no one tell you that you're unworthy. 'Cause I'm a super individual.
Right, like we said, that's the theme song that runs through this show. It's called I Am. It's performed by Sane Makalima, and we hope that you took time to listen to the lyrics of that song, because if you did, you must already have grasped something from that song. Now, back to you, Mr. Marandure. While the show focuses on the power of I Am, but we'd also like to know from you, especially taking from your example, what are some of the necessary support structures for a person who's trying to make it, and who or what were yours?
Yeah, support structures. I think, like the saying says, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise someone, and I think that's very true. So it starts off with the immediate village, which is the family circle. And for those who don't have a family circle, it could be guardians, it could be grandparents, uncles and aunts. We use those more mature individuals to actually provide us with guidance. Then there's the friends. I think selection of friends is very key, because as young people, we tend to be strongly influenced by our friends. Then there's the teachers. I think we don't give teachers enough credit.
Sure.
Kids go out to school, they spend 5-6 hours, sometimes 7 hours at school, and they're under the guidance of teachers. So teachers really play a critical role. I think those are some of the structures that we actually need to ensure that we succeed. Do we have the right friends who encourage us, who critique us, who provide us with the truth that we sometimes don't want to hear, right? Do we have parents who discipline us when we think they shouldn't, but they know that it's good for us, right?
Sure.
Yeah, because growing up, we used to be spanked. We used to be spanked, yeah. And you look back on some of those spankings, and that's where you picked up your lessons from.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's painful while you're going through the process, but these are necessary things that need to happen for you as a teenager or as a kid to realize that you have to change some of your ways. You have to make better choices in life. So I think those are some of the structures that we need in life. And then we have people who can just generally influence others. Leaders from Mutare like yourself, Mr. Kandiro. There's a lot of people who look up to you in the community, and they say, if Leekay rose from the same town and is now running our first and only station in this town,
absolutely,
then I can do the same. And so we become heroes or models to people we don't even know.
Sure.
So I think it's important that we carry ourselves in such a way that even those who don't know us can look up to us and can learn from us.
Thank you very much for that one. Now, you are a Mutare boy. You are based in Harare right now, but you've also gone to the States.
Correct.
But that does not change the fact that you are a Mutare boy.
Correct.
You're one of our own.
That's where it all began.
Yes. What would you like to see, or who would you like to see coming out of Mutare next? Because I'm sure this is something that does come to your mind to say, I would like to see this coming out of Mutare, or I'd like to see this next person coming out of Mutare.
Mutare has produced a lot of successful people, and I think there's still a lot of potential for more successful people to come out of Manicaland. So my hope for Manicaland is it's a good breeding ground for talent, whether it be academic talent or people in the arts. So my desire for Manicaland is for it to continue to produce people who the whole country can look up to and say, hey, that person is from Mutare. I want to be like that person. And like I said earlier on, I think Mutare provides the greatest place for the formative years. It's a small town. There's lots of mature people who can provide good counsel. There's less distractions in that town. It's a beautiful city in terms of the surroundings. So I think it's an ideal place for people to come up from. Their formative years, build a solid and a solid character, so to speak. And then when you're ready for the challenges in the big city, then you can emerge out of Mutare.
I think I would like to like second that and say, while Harare seems like it's the place where you can build your dreams, it's got more opportunities, absolutely.
Correct.
But I would like to second what you're saying, because it does get hectic.
Very true.
And if you want to maybe study in Harare,
Lots of distractions.
It's too many of them.
Lots of distractions.
Too many of them. It seems like it pressures you to always be on your feet, doing other things that probably you're not supposed to be doing at that time. So yeah, I would like to second that and say, for a formative platform, I think Mutare is great. So like Mr. Marandure says, it's also our dream, which is why we introduced this show, to say we'd like to see more great people coming out of Mutare. I think we have a long list of people who have made it in Zimbabwe and outside Zimbabwe, who have been from Mutare. Before we let you go, Mr. Marandure, what are your final words to someone who's stuck in self-pity? Because I know that this is a trap that a lot of people fall in, self-pity. But inini takatotaurirwa kaizvi kuti kumhuri kwedu hapana akamboendawo kuskuru saka inini ndotanga sei isusu tinotamburira kuwana school fees yacho and but we know some great stories that have come out of people who have got that background. But that has never changed the narrative for a lot of people. They still wallow in self-pity. What will your final words be?
Self-pity. That's something that we never knew in the household growing up.
Great.
And I'll give you an example. And this ties into the big city phenomenon. I had a close friend whose family moved to Harare when I was in Form 1, Form 2. And he spoke about life in Harare, and he made it sound really grand.
Okay.
So I remember approaching my dad and saying, why don't we move to Harare? There's so many more opportunities for you and for all of us.
This was you now.
This was me now. And this guy was now going to Churchill High School. And I thought, the boys in purple. It all sounded very grand. And my dad sat me down and he read me a verse. I told you I was raised on the Bible. Isaiah 59 verse 1. And to paraphrase it, it says this: the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot reach, neither is his ear heavy that it cannot hear. And I've always remembered that verse from that time. Regardless of where you are, whatever situation you're sitting in, the Lord's hand is not shortened that it cannot reach. It can reach right down to your situation. So stop feeling sorry for yourself, but rather pick yourself up and figure out what God and you can do together. There's no benefit to feeling sorry for yourself, but rather what can you do to turn your situation around?
There's no benefit to you feeling sorry for yourself.
No benefit whatsoever. Pick yourself up and figure out what steps do you need to take to really, really get on track towards your destination.
Great. No benefit to self-pity, absolutely. And if you were to take it from the things that you've said already, there's a time when your self kicked in, and I think that was around Form 3.
Correct.
But then you also continue telling us about meeting God in everything that you want to do.
Correct.
So I think with that combination, and also knowing at the back of your mind that there is no benefit in self-pity, you can only grow and you can only become who you want to become.
Very true. Now, before we close, Leekay, I just want to share one more verse that this was my memory text growing up. And again, like I said, always guided by the Bible.
Sure.
Proverbs chapter 6, verse 10. I'd read that verse and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd get back to my books. It says, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a bandit.
Wow.
A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a bandit.
Wow.
I didn't want to ever meet poverty. So I would spend most of my nights studying. I remember my dad would wake up at 4 a.m. I'd get home from school around 4 or 5 p.m. I'd have dinner, I'd go to sleep. I'd wake up around 9, 10 p.m. and I'd read through the night until 4 a.m. So when my dad was waking up, I would be going back to sleep.
Wow.
I didn't want to meet poverty. Inspired by the verses in the Bible from the wise man King Solomon.
Proverbs 6.
Proverbs 6 verse 10. And every time I read that verse, I would be forced to go back to my books and study. Because I wanted a different life for myself.
So we could safely say one of your other inspirations was you did not want to meet poverty.
No. And again, being a Christian, we believe that God wants the best for us. He wants us to be the heads and not the tails. And God is looking for, showpieces that he can proudly display and say, look what I can do for you if you trust in me. Right? So I think it's on me to do my part and to let God do the rest.
Interesting. Well, we had Mr. Darlick Marandure. He's a CTO, Chief Technology Officer for Zimpapers. We've been sharing. This is You Speak, I Speak, like we've done every Sunday now, to bring in somebody who inspires us. And first of all, we had our very own Dylan Sismai telling us about where he came from to be one of our top presenters here. And then we also had Bishop Mananga coming through. This week we're privileged to have Mr. Marandure just sharing his story. And these are all people that have come from this small town or small city, whichever way you want to define it.
Beautiful city.
Yeah. Yeah. And I second that, third that, and fourth that. It is a beautiful beautiful city. So thank you very much, Mr. Marandure. I'm sure we'll have you back one of these good days, because I'm sure people have questions, and maybe you want to respond to those questions, because I know that a lot of people are waiting for that kind of inspiration, and they probably have questions to ask, to say, how did you manage to overcome A, B, C, and D? How do I go about networking and all? You've seen it all. You've been in the States. True. So I'm sure we'll have you back on the show, maybe have a Q&A question session where we'll have more inspiration to the people of Mutare. But otherwise, thank you very much for making time to be with us on You Speak, I Speak, and we can only wish you all the best in all your endeavors.
Thank you very much, Leekay, and to all the listeners out there, keep believing, keep working hard, because hard work always pays off. Thank you very much.